unpack the debate and the gender-based violence drama that marred it. Of course, guys, thank you so much for your time. Before we get into, the intricacies of, the themes and the topics that were discussed there, I just want to get your sentiments and reflections of the State of the Nation address that was delivered by President Cyril Ramaphosa. Perhaps let's start with you, Awande. What did you make of it?
I think it was really nothing different to what we've come to know of the State of the Address. I think in terms of the fashion, the theatrics, and even the content, I don't think there's really anything that stood out or was different to what normally happens at all the State of the Nations, which I think is kind of disappointing, because you would like to see that with everything that's happening in South Africa, that there's some sort of creativity that's going to come from the president, or some sort of innovation in terms of what he's going to address and the things that we're going to hear.
Yeah, and just looking at some of the reviews on social media and some thoughts as well from other political analysts, some saying that this is the best SONA that was delivered by President Cyril Ramaphosa. So many, disagreeing with you there, Awande. What are your thoughts, Khotsi?
I definitely don't think it's the best. Unless you set the bar really, really low on what a good SONA should be. Yeah. I'm fine with having an ordinary SONA that has no theatrics or nothing big or no innovations if the country is fine, right? If the country is just chugging along at a normal pace and there's no real crisis, then having an ordinary SONA is perfect. But you need innovation in a situation where the country is not fine. And the country is far from being okay. In fact, just now he was mentioning the idea of we are planting the seeds, and the wonder is, no, it's time to harvest. Yeah. It was time to harvest 10 years ago. It was time to harvest 5 years ago. By you admitting that we're planting the seeds is admitting that there's a crisis of some sort that we're trying to work out of. So I would have wanted something that acknowledges the crisis that we're in and gives us solutions, but more importantly, builds the trust between us and the president's office, not just the president.
So the question is then, Tessa, what else was missing? He's saying, it has to be an honest conversation with the nation where we're talking seriously and honestly, I suppose, about the challenges that we're facing. What to you was missing?
So I think what it was a workmanlike speech in a way that we hadn't seen before. Yeah. I think the first few speeches were about inspiration. I think last year, February, we had a bit more, here are some of the things that I'm going to start doing, then we reverted back to inspiration. So what was good about this one for me was there was a lot more, here are the projects I intend to take up. And these are the things on my desk. Yeah. What the problem is that actually for me a lot of it was about presidency and about the thing that will be happening in the president's office rather than the thing that will be happening in the entire machinery of government. Yeah. And so you had a sense that there's kind of a project management office in the president's office, an investment infrastructure office. He's meeting with so-and-so. He's setting up a new commission. And so there was a lot about what he's going to do, but he's not government. There's an entire government machinery that he leads, and we heard very, very little about, number one, progress that they've made on the targets that he set for them, and things that they are going to do as a unified body of government, as opposed to just the things that will land on his desk alone.
What then stole the moment insofar as, the business of the day is concerned? I mean, we saw the President, Cyril Ramaphosa, really struggling to finish his intro, finish his sentences without the EFF, stepping in and pointing out, points of order. Many saying that it's really reality television that is not really about the issues and the real issues facing normal South Africans.
I think there's a different way of looking at that, actually. And I think if we're going to look at sort of the EFF and their decorum or lack thereof, however you like to see it, I think that this is something that's actually been necessary for South African politics, and especially with SONA, because it's gotten us to a point now where people are actually opening their ears. And I think it's this sort of behavior from the EFF where they have actually decided that they're going to take the narrative that has brought a vibrancy to South African democracy and that has brought a vibrancy to South African politics.
So how dangerous then is that vibrancy? Isn't it then at the cost of, proper work being done in Parliament?
No, I don't think so. So even though
so we need that
so there's theatrics and SONA, which is a new aspect of our democracy since the EFF came in. The assumption that carries over into the day-to-day working of MPs, I'm not sure if that holds. The day-to-day working of MPs seems to be people who are doing their jobs in Parliament. Now, whether they're doing their jobs well enough is the big question. But when the cameras aren't on MPs, they are going about their business. In fact, the EFF is going about their business in Parliament quite effectively. The IFP does a fantastic job when the lights aren't on them. So we do have to separate the theatrics of when the eyes of the country are looking at SONA and what we expect of that and what we expect of them during their day-to-day activities.
It's not only the eyes of the country, but internationally as well. People are watching us. The business community is watching us. What perception are we sending?
I think we're sending out a perception that there's more to our country than just a speech being said.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that came out very strongly before the SONA and during the SONA was people asking, do we actually need a SONA?
Yeah.
What is the purpose of this speech? What does this speech help us do? What does it help us move forward? And what the EFF illustrated, badly as they did, with bad behavior all included, is they illustrated the mood of our country. There are many EFFs in our country. There are many communities and townships and places and spaces that are chaotic and where people are rising up and saying, you know, we're going to interrupt the business of the day today if it means that our voices are going to be heard. There are places in the country where there's a disgruntlement. I mean, the FW de Klerk issue is still ongoing now, opening new cans of worms with new interlocutors a week after SONA, whereas the content of the speeches died down.
What's your view then to people who are saying there is a time and a place to do all of that? People who even till this day are against protests, for example, saying that people on the ground should find better ways of showing their frustration.
What does that even mean? We live in a democracy that was given to us through struggle and protest, that was given to us through people challenging the norms and breaking the decorums of the day. And so we cannot now be in a country the way we have those freedoms and then say that people need to look for things that, you know, won't shake the ship, especially when the ship is not stable, it's not steady, it's not a happy place. We need to open ourselves to the idea that if the method might be not what you want, but look at the content. And what parliamentarians are supposed to do, hold the executive to account. The president came, the EFF tried to hold him to account.
Yeah,
I think adding to that as well, and just taking it back to the EFF, is let's not forget that they've never sold themselves as these sit quietly and listen sort of people. Just their constituent base, their whole way of being since conception has always been that they are going to take the radical stance, the stance that we haven't seen before, the stance that hasn't been used post 1994 to try and get governments to act.
So and I want us to get into the ripple effects of that